All right, gang. We are continuing on in the mythos of Neo Gotham. This is Batman Beyond, issue 40. Now, you guys hear me poke fun saying, oh, the 1/1000th variant of the first appearance. I'm a sucker for it too. I admit that. But this book is important from the fact that this is the issue. We've gone through the subsequent issues from this, leading up to, there's a new Batwoman and Neo Gotham. This book finally reveals who it is. And I've talked about we've seen this person before in other parts of the story already from Dan Jurgens, but this one finally shows her. So at the end, I will show that page. So if you don't want to be spoiled, make sure to pause this video, go hunt down this comic or the trade, and then come back. And you're back. All right. So with that said, let's dive in. Now, this, I guess you'd call the subplot or the B plot, because in stories, they have like A plot, B plot, and sometimes C plots. The A plot is we're trying to figure out who this Batwoman Beyond is. The B plot is Terry McGinnis not having his memory. The event, I guess the arc, it's not an event, but the arc before this, Terry's memories were stolen from a villain called Falseface. And he used Terry's identity to get him into a slew of trouble, etc., so forth. But when Falseface died, Terry's memories died with him. So he's just a walking blank slate. He's been kind of living as a homeless person on the streets of Neo Gotham. And he ran into this character named Constance. And spoilers if you haven't been following along. We come to find out that Constance was a really close associate of Eric. Is it Eric or Derek? I can't remember. Derek Powers, I think is his name. Blight. Blight's back. Terry McGinnis is missing. Falseface still's okay. We talked about that. He has no idea who his friends are or who to turn to for help. He's probably in trouble. Deep trouble. And again, we've talked about this third person narration. This may be someone else, but at the moment we don't know that. And it's always nice to have that third person narration again. And so if you guys want to know more about Falseface, etc., so forth, it says see Batman Beyond issue 33. Blight says inter. Constance finds out that Powers is alive. And they do a memory, they get this technology where they're able to find out who they are, or at least who Terry is. And she comes to find out it's Terry McGinnis. And for those of you that may not be initiated into the Batman Beyond mythos, the way Terry becomes Batman from the cartoon, because it started with the cartoon and then the comic was made. His father, whose name I cannot remember off the top of my head, worked for Powers. It's Wayne Powers in this future. And he comes to find out what he's developing, and Blight has him assassinated. And when Terry goes on a road of revenge, he ends up crossing paths with an old Bruce Wayne. And that's how Terry McGinnis becomes Batman Beyond. And she's like, Derek, it's really you, alive. If you can call this living. I'm still here, though, should you remember that. Afflicted as I am, I prefer to be called Blight. As if amnesia weren't enough to deal with McGinnis is wanted for murder. Can't possibly be guilty, but we can assume he's fallen in with a bad crowd. If I'd known you were alive, I would have come looking for you. But the police said you were dead, so they thought. But you can't kill radiation. Who's your friend? Mystery man. Found him wandering the streets. Lost in a haze of amnesia. Stumbled into Constance, and she's been helping me ever since. How unfortunate. My appearance has frightened most people, but not you. Why? So Terry says that he was given a heads up. He says, go downstairs to the hiring recruitment. Incredible, he really doesn't know that he's Warren McGinnis' son, Terry. Warren. And that you had his father killed? No. Neo Gotham is filled with people who would like to tear the city apart, who want nothing more than to watch Gotham burn. The irony alone makes McGinnis perfect for what we have in mind. Then we cut into Batwoman. So this is First Flight Part 4. Dan Jurgens writing, Chen penciling, Sean Parsons doing the inks, Chris Sotomayor doing the colors, Wes Abbott letterer, and Batman was created by Bill Finger with Bob Kane. So building on fire. And one thing, before we even get into the plot, what I love about this comic, other than that it's Dan Jurgens frickin' writing, look at the artwork. One thing that you'll notice, like when I talk about old comics and how you can see the human hand in it, like you can see human errors or the way someone looked at something and cross-thatched the shit out of it inking. Look at her face here. I'm pretty sure this is probably done on a Wacom. Sure, we'll go with that tablet. But look at the shading. That looks old school. And that stood out to me the most in this panel. I went, holy crap, that looks like someone actually sat down and used India. Is it India ink? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That looks like they used the nub and to do all that cross-thatching there. This looks almost like traditional comic artwork, and that's what's really excited me about this. Sure, it was probably colored digitally, but this team really made it a point to make it look more handcrafted instead of like, oh, look, I use Paint Bucket and Photoshop. Bloop. And I know that's not what people do, but there's sometimes where, even with like photography and use Photoshop, and there's times when I'm doing my toy photography and I'm editing something in Photoshop, I'll scrap it because I go, damn, that looks too overprocessed. And then a lot of these comics, even though the artwork is beautiful, it just looks too overprocessed and just really kills that human element of the book. So with that said, everyone doesn't think that they're going to be able to get this person out alive. And so she comes in, she's able to save this person. But what drives me nuts, there's probably only one glaring thing. I'm not going to get into it because that's not what this channel is about. But if you look at this panel, and then when she saves the coworker, this panel, I'm like, does it really need to be said? Like, really? Does that have to be the point of contention in this book? Anyway, past that, we see that she's a hero. She kicks ass. And then we come to find that Terry's saying, hey, I'm ready to work. And then we cut back to the Batcave. Because last issue, Matt and Terry are talking about who they think the Batwoman is. And on the final page, it can only be, and it shows both of them, what's his name? Gordon, wow. Batman Bruce says Barbara Gordon, and Matt says, oh hell, what's her name? Melanie. I can't remember her last name. But if that name sounds familiar to you, back in the Batman Beyond comic, y'all remember the Royal Flush Gang. The future version, they had a daughter named Melanie. And her and Terry started to kind of have a thing. And she wanted out of the crime life, but she ended up going with her family. And somewhere along in the books, she parted ways. And her and Terry, I think, have had a thing because Dana at this point, I think, is gone. And I don't remember why. I remember they had a breakup, but I don't remember why. If y'all can fill me in, let me know. But that's who Melanie is. She was part of the Royal Flush Gang. And so here, I've already told you that I'm not Batwoman. So it must not be me. Then it means it's Melanie. Me, not on your life. But it has to be one of you, doesn't it? And I love how they both kind of break out laughing. The world's greatest detective stumped. I didn't think it was possible. But if you guys aren't Batwoman, who? Emergency alert. Please take immediate cover. Wayne Manor is under attack. So, in addition to Powers having Terry's father murdered, Bruce, when he was like the CEO of Wayne Enterprises before he handed it over to Derek secretly hated Bruce Wayne. And so his point in life is to eliminate Bruce Wayne. So at this point, this thing that he steals, which was part of what we saw her saving that employee from, comes to full circle. They assault Wayne Manor. So Batwoman comes in to save the day. But as she's going, she gets hurt. Let me find it. Hold on a second. I don't want to give everything away. Oh, yeah. The other thing. Where is it? Hold on. I love this intro. So, that thing will annihilate everything in sight. Run while you can. Blight's the remorse? Maybe it's something different. Maybe it's help. And then we see this blue Blight skid in and enter Dick Grayson. So, of course, gotta love the 11th hour Nightwing moment. But pay attention, because like I said, I'm going to spoil the last page. Batwoman gets hurt. And Dick comes running up. You don't look so good. Are you okay? Hurt all over. This almost did me in, but I can't let these guys succeed. She hears that. She goes, him, of all people. And so she takes off. Wait, I only wanted to help. Looks like the coast's clear. Yeah, thank you. It's because I learned from the best. Dick, how did you know we were in trouble? I didn't. So here, he says his daughter is missing. And with that said, I will spoil the last page. So if you don't want to know yet, this is where I ask you to turn away from the video. But Dick says that his daughter, Melanie, has been missing for days, and he's worried. And it's here, he says, but the fact that she's missing, she's disappeared weeks ago. God only knows what kind of trouble she's in. And I remember when she said him, of all people, and takes off, it's Melanie. She goes, no way I'm ready to face my father. And I think she's a great replacement for Batwoman in the future. Because in the main 616 right now, it's Kate Kane, which is like Bruce Wayne's cousin. And before that, what was that, like the Silver Age, late Bronze Age? It was Kathy Kane or something like that. And she was like nothing to do with Batman other than they were supposed to get married or something. That was the whole thing. But I like here that they expound upon Dick's side of the family. Because as we saw in Grant Morrison and Mark Quagley's Batman and Robin, when Dick took over the mask of Bruce when he allegedly died during Final Crisis, it was nice to see Grayson step up, as should be the natural progression. Like, I hate to say it, but at this point in life, in terms of comics, if you want your characters to grow old, like let's say if this future didn't exist, it should be Dick Grayson. And then Tim Drake. And we'll skip over Jason Todd and then Damian. But to see Dick's daughter take up the mantle of Batwoman is just absolutely awesome. And that's what makes... So we've gone over the action figure. I bought the unmasked version because I knew who the character was. And yeah, I mean, there's some that's left to be desired, but it was just nice to have that unmasked version, knowing that the Grayson family is intertwined with the Waynes because they're family. And it was just nice to see how this all accumulated in this regard. And that's what really threw me down the hole of this Batman Beyond arc. It's because I heard rumors, and it's just a nice little thing. And again, look at the artwork, guys. Yes, like I said, I'm sure it's probably colored digitally, but look at all the shading work. Does that not look like they used a nub and it looks and done? And of course, it being Jurgens, he knows how to spin an awesome little tell. Don't get me wrong, I love his Superman stuff, but he also knows how to write a damn good Batman story as well. So with that said, if you've enjoyed what you see, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever it's like to get your action figures and comics. And grab this book because it is... Let's put the collecting aspect aside of, oh, this is going to be so much money. No. This is important from Batman and DC ethos. Lots of history built upon this, and that's what makes it important. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, as I just said, support your local comic shop. And if you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate taking a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little bat bell, next subscribe. That way we can continue to upload content. You guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with you on hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure the links down in the description. And with all that said, if you do enjoy what I do and you'd like to support the channel, I'd love the PayPal link in the description. And if not, I still appreciate you watching this video. Either way, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.